everyone. Can you hear me? I have met everyone a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen. I would like to thank you all for participating. And we have already started on YouTube, so I would like to welcome everyone here in the facilities of Επαγγελματική Αγωγή, here in the amphitheater, our presenters on Zoom, our people watching on YouTube, and people participating in Second Life. These are interesting times, let's say, that we're living. We are trying new things in order to accommodate the needs that the new COVID reality has on us. I'm very happy to start the paper session of the conference. We have some very interesting papers from all over the world. And I'm happy to introduce our first speaker, Jonas Bakeli. I'm sorry if I mispronounced some of the names. Jonas is from the Department of Development Coordination at Stockholm Education Administration in Sweden. And he's going to talk to us about adapting the selfie tool to study teachers' attitude to automated self-reflection practices. Jonas, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Perfect. Let's start off here with exactly like you said, it's very interesting times, and compared to a lot of other ones, my focus this time has been about how we can use the selfie tool that most of you in this call might be known to. It's the European Commission tool, and with focus on something that's called automated self-reflection practices. And then I'm going to give you some examples of actual solutions that we've been working on at the moment. So let's start with things on this side that, as mentioned, I'm coming from city of Stockholm, which is the municipality, which has about 160,000 students and children. And we have an aim to be working on a concept called a smart city. But to do that, we are also looking at how can digital tools be implemented in education. And during the last period, again, most of you have been introduced to the idea of open school culture and the open classroom, where we actually are not seeing school as something isolated from society, but part of society, and where innovation actually benefits school. Also, most countries in your Education Act is clearly saying that we are promoting development learning of all students, and we also are making sure to meet each student's need, and then also to have this that is called automation, like you have a way of agency, where the student can actually choose and direct their own learning. So the two challenges that focused on first was actually to find how this intrinsic motivation could be a way that comes from having more autonomy. And the theory behind it is the self-determination theory. And we also have the second aspect of this from the teacher perspective, where again, there is a lot of times technology get introduced without having a clear purpose in the classroom. And I'm using the term pedagogical affordances, and the concept is practice-oriented transformation. Now, let's go into the different perspectives. And as we are going into what's called the fourth industrial development, basically, there are a lot of new technologies being introduced. And to focus on something called learning analytics, we have focused on something called student learning analytics, because normally you can have a system supporting the teachers to adapt learning or to monitor progress of the student. but instead we are going to use educational data mining to promote then what I called automated self-reflection. And this could look in a lot of different ways, but if it's done correctly, the student will be able to change the direction of the learning based on their monitoring of their progress. If we move even further, this can also be done by machine learning. And this is what's been done with something called intelligent tutoring systems. Just to see the picture in the bottom of the chart, we basically have been working with first unstructured data, where we have sensors that collect data and then we're trying to make sense of it. The next one that we've been looking into is the structured embedded data, which actually is some sort of structure which comes from semantic tagging or annotation. And again, these words, it depends on the viewers what you heard, but it's also called ontologies, and it's basically domain knowledge. And by applying domain knowledge and letting experts train the system, we can give the system ability to give better feedback. And the next level that we're hoping to achieve in the future is to introduce the intelligent tutoring system, where it actually is artificial intelligence to guide the machine learning. Aspects of going back to the main purpose of this study is actually to add a section in the school options in the selfie study. So there's 10 questions you can add for your own school. And the question, we start with pedagogical affordances. And one concept that has been very popular, it is the universal design for learning. And on the guideline number 9, it's about provide multiple means for engagement. But the two things that it actually achieves is self-regulation, which is where the student can develop coping skills and develop self-assessment and reflection. And when you do that, the idea is that you're getting a higher level, which is called higher order thinking skills. And this you can see from Bloom's taxonomy, but there is even other versions of it where you can classify some knowledge on a higher level. The selfie tool, as I mentioned, the objective is to add extra statements into the selfie tool, and then to suggest an implementation tool for a plan for intelligent tutoring system, and then to see what possible solutions that are in the near future. Again, as far as we created 3 statements based on UDL, and then 3 statements based on the pedagogical affordances. And then we have so far only handed it out to a pilot group. And then the next thing is going to interview experts to see what type of steps we need for implementation. And here we now have 3 of the statements that are already built in the selfie tool. So people used it, you will find that these are already in as a way of practice, assessment practices. But to my or to our project, these are quite general. So we added these 3 ones to look for intrinsic motivation. And as you can see, the first one is talking about self-reflection and identifying personal goals. And the next one is about the internal control and coping skills. And then the last one is about collect, chart, and display data. The other aspect of this challenge is to look at the pedagogical affordances. And we have found out, or we want to achieve reduced workload for teachers. We also want to make sure that there is more equal education, and also want to promote students' goal fulfillment. And this one, as you see in the bottom, is very much linked to human-computer interaction, where how we actually see that these automated self-reflection systems are supporting us. Now, since we're doing this very shortly, I'm going to say this is just an example display of how the selfie result hopefully is going to look like, with different sections and like an Aster plot. And the same thing is there is also a system called or a project called Sherpa, where it's actually linked to creating an action plan for pedagogical innovation. But that's to come in the future. And here's also one of the main aspects is that we want to break down the answers into percentage, and to get more of our schools and teachers to answer this. We also hope that the promotion of getting a certificate and an open badge will be a good way forward. And now the preliminary result, it is that we can see that as far as we know, the automated self-reflection will enhance the performance of students and reduce workload for teachers. When it comes to equal education, it's quite a complex area. You see if we actually can monitor lack of motivation. And so far we've seen it's hard to connect, and it might be an area where the automatization can struggle compared to a teacher. And the last one is the implementation plan. We are still just in the progress of it. Now, since many of you are doing projects similar to this, or the challenging change of education, basically I want to present some of our projects in process or experiments. And the first one, it's called the knowledge matrix. And this is getting back to the level of the traffic light reflections, where the student themselves get the itinerary for a coming test, and then they get exercises with video clips. And the little green section in the middle of the picture is in Swedish a way of saying, now when you solve this problem, if you get a similar problem within a week, will it be something you think you're going to be able to solve? And this gives you a lot of screening data that the student can see themselves, but they then also share with the tutor. Another one that has been running is using Power BI from Microsoft. And based on research in medicine, the company managed to create a type of screening tool to find out reading difficulties in children. And as you can see, the one to the right showing that the student probably is going to have support when it comes to reading. So it's more like a way of using it. And if you look at AI enhanced learning, it's nowadays been developed much further than this. The next one is we had the opportunity to work with Robotics with something called social robotics. And we managed to create a skill, as it was called, as a robot teaching assistant. And the evaluation of this is that it's quite time consuming and requires a lot of training. So we have more hopes at the moment with a virtual assistant that is based on an AI-powered conversational chatbot, since this one can be learning itself from our database. Another project is based on CG Scholar, and it's a tool that has been made to that teachers can do the different domains of knowledge and create different levels of it. We customize this to be based on learning outcomes from the learning design pedagogy, which you might have seen if you've been looking into multiliteracy. But again, this is about educational data mining, where it's coded what type of knowledge that is going to be monitored, and then it's visualized in order to improve your learning. And then finally, where we're sitting now is that we are building an AI strategy for education. And then we have like a maturement tool. And this one is very similar to Selfie, where it's different levels where we evaluate where you are. And you can also see these green, yellow, and red dots. They are the different shareholders or stakeholders. So the green could be students, the yellow could be teachers, and the red one could be school leaders. So this was shortly what we've been doing. And as I said, the main study is now to monitor the teacher pedagogical affordances and for students to create self-motivation with intrinsic motivation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonas. It was very interesting. The open questions of self-feed is a well-established feature, but I think it is very interesting what you have done with incorporating universal design for learning and how we can provide inclusive digital solutions to all students. And are there any questions? If not, let me check the chat. Yes, of course, sorry. We have one here from the auditorium.
Yeah.
Is it a screen or is it just my voice?
It's your voice.
Ah, okay. My name is Hans Borgman. I just had the keynote an hour ago. We are talking about another instrument, but of course I'm very interested in selfie. But in your talk and also in the website of the European Commission, a big part is missing from my point of view. It's a good theory, it's a good practice. What is the validation procedure between, you know? How do you make sure, or how did the developers make sure that the selfie is an instrument, valid, reliable, and so on? Could you help me to find some information about this?
Again, I'm not the right person to answer, but I must say the selfie tool, they're taking it to the level where you only use it to find gaps in your organization, because it's each one's opinion. And we have been using a similar tool before, and it's like, depending on the attitude in school, how you experience the data is going to be used, then you try to maybe change your answers. So you're saying the answers are not really the most important. It's more to monitor where you can find a gap. And the next thing, when you find a gap, then you're going to say specifically, what can we do here? And this is what's called the action plan. And I know that is the newest development of selfie that I am so excited about. It's actually taking the indicators from the statements and making that into an action plan. So that is as far as I know.
Okay, thank you so much. And now from the north of Europe and Sweden, we're going to the south, Greece. We'd like to welcome Ioannis Chiotelis from the Experimental High School of the University of Patras, Greece, who is going to present the framework for dealing with internal and external crises in a school unit. Ioannis, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you first of all for the invitation, the acceptance of our work, of our project. The title of our project is the framework for dealing with internal and external crises in a school unit, and it has been done by Elena Papatsiou, which is an internationalist and sociologist working at the University of Patras, and
for dealing with internal and external crises in a school unit.
From me, from Experimental High School. First of all, for the invitation, the acceptance of our work. I'm sharing my voice.
I'm sorry, yes, I don't know why we have an echo. Okay. Please, all participants, mute your computers. Yeah, I think this is the result now. Sorry for interruption, Ioannis.
I think it's okay now. Of course, we all know that often in our schools, crisis emergence, and we have to manage with crisis because, you know, we have a lot of relationships, we have a lot of matters concerning the the relationships between students and teachers, teachers and teachers, teachers and parents, students and parents. So after a long work, after facing many crises, we concluded that there are 12 stages of facing and overcoming a crisis. So I will present you these 12 stages. First of all, the first step is to recognize the crisis situation. The recognition of the crisis is essential as a starting point. Crises usually erupt when the glass overflows with the last drop. So we had to, at the very beginning, to recognize the problems that are causing the crisis. So the first step is, of course, the recognition, and this will be the most important part for the solution. The second stage of facing the crisis is taking responsibility for taking action. Of course, this is also very difficult because we must be ready to accept that something goes wrong, and somehow it's very difficult for people to recognize their mistakes or their responsibilities. So this is the second step, and this is also very important. The third step is the limiting problems. Usually we have to build a fence around the problem in order to eliminate the problem and focus towards the specific problem and the specific matter that causes this crisis. Usually after one major problem, many other occur, but we want to focus especially in the main core of the problem, the main core of the crisis. The fourth step is getting, of course, external help. This is also very important. We, of course, refer to psychological support or counseling, guiding help from a mentor or from people that already face the same situations and they know how to facing these specific problems. The fifth step is modeling and or prototyping the problem. Of course, we don't refer into copying the methodologies of overcoming the crisis because each crisis has specific characteristics, but we are talking about modeling the steps, actually these 12 steps, I'm referring into these 12 steps, but modeling and prototyping the steps that we had to follow in order to overcome the crisis. The sixth parameter is self-confidence, the power of ego. This parameter, the power of ego, is sometimes somehow not so accepted. I mean, we are always talking about group working. We are always talking about collaboration, but also the self-confidence is very important. And this refers by the psychologists as the power of ego. Power of ego means having self-awareness, sense of purpose, accepting yourself as you are, be proud and independent person. And all these characteristics are very important in order to successfully overcome some conditions, to express yourself freely, to accurately perceive reality and to make correct decisions. The seventh step is honest self-assessment. This is also very difficult to be achieved because no one wants to make a honest self-assessment. Usually we transfer the mistakes and all the problematic situations into other people and never accept our mistakes. So this is also a very important stage in order to overcome some difficult situations and start finding solutions to overcome problems at the beginning and then the crisis. The eighth step is experience from previous crises. Within the classroom, within a school, within an organization such as a school, some teachers, usually the older ones, have obviously faced same type of crisis in the past. So teachers or mentors or people concerned with related with administration or consultants or mentors can help by the experience, give the proper advices in order to help classroom, school, or as an organization to overcome the crisis. So it is very important to teachers to effectively guide students and encourage them to begin a new effort in order to overcome some type of crisis. The ninth step is, of course, the patience. Patience is associated with the ability for a team to withstand uncertainty, ambiguity, or failure in a last initial attempts to change. Students often don't want they are not patient. They want immediate solutions. They don't want to pay more effort to try harder, etc. So we strongly insist on patience. We try to encourage students not to abandon their efforts and always try to finally achieve their goals. So patience is very important also for overcoming the crisis. The 10th step is flexibility. Flexibility is very important also because all of us have certain ideas, certain opinions about how to work, how to proceed. But these opinions, these feelings, these wishes sometimes are not always the proper. So we have to be flexible as a team, as a group, as an individual person. So we must be flexible in order to overcome some situations and accept that probably there are different ways out. The 11th step is fundamentals. Fundamentals are, we refer as fundamentals, the basic principles or principles that each person follows by heart or by family advices or by family feelings. The basic principles are related to the power of the ego, of course, and concerns beliefs, family beliefs, for instance. They may refer to the code of each member, religion, devotion to a goal, success, for example, at the exams, devotion to family, etc. Sometimes we have to overcome also these beliefs or these fundamentals, or in the best way to somehow entangle, to somehow relate these fundamentals, these beliefs, to the goal of our goals. For instance, to overcome a crisis, somehow we have to face our beliefs or overcome these beliefs, or somehow moderate these beliefs. The 12th and last step is freedom from restrictions. Freedom from restrictions means freedom from any kind of restrictions. Restrictions can be sometimes bureaucracy, sometimes the very strict following of some rules, or some rules, for example, in the school. So we have sometimes to feel freedom, to feel free to overcome some of the basic, for instance, principles of bureaucracy. If we, according to our experience, we realize that overcoming a crisis is very strongly related to these 12 steps. So, as conclusions, we can say that introducing new innovative ideas into a school is of an essential pedagogical importance for students, especially in upper secondary education. At the same time, the interconnection of science, technology, education, pedagogics is of paramount importance for students, as it reveals the path to personal independence and development. These conclusions are strongly related to what we call the facing and overcoming the crisis. Of course, we must not omit to mention the benefits of teamwork. Of course, overcoming a crisis is teamwork, but also power of ego. And finally, we mentioned that in our conclusions that successfully tackling a crisis requires the fundamental steps that I already referred and I already mentioned. So this was our presentation. Thank you for your attention. And this was our experience facing more than 12 years crisis within our school organization, the Experimental High School of University of Patras. Thank you again for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heliotis. If there are no questions, okay, thank you. And from we're going all the way to Georgia now. Again, sorry if I mispronounce some of the names. Professor Ruizar Mekbabice, who is going to discuss the transformation of the educational process for the new thinkers. Professor Mekbabice, can you hear us? Okay, you can share your screen. Hello. And again, I would like to remind all presenters to keep the 10-minute that we have set in order to be able to have some questions also. Thank you. You can share it directly your PowerPoint if you can hear us, Professor. We can see your screen, so if you put it on presentation mode, now we can see the presentation, but you have to unmute yourself in order to hear you. Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Do you see my presentation?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, okay. I excuse for my defect of my video, and I want to present my presentation. Is
okay, it would be better to interrupt if you put it on presentation mode so we can see it better on the bottom right of the screen next to the 76%.
yes.
Okay, please continue.
Yes. This my presentation is transformation of the education process for the new thinkers. I think it's very interesting in this very hard situation bring by the COVID, and transformation of the education process for the formation of the new thinkers is a causal relationship between critical thinking, students' motivation, students' engagement in the study process, and student achievement, individualization, teaching, learning, practice process. As a realistic point of view,
sorry to interrupt you. Could you move closer to the microphone so we can hear you better? Yes, thank you.
Yes, maybe it's better. The realistic point of view today, we have proved the idea that we can create a real learning environment in higher education schools. And this is the problem with the number one. But we can change some of characteristics into the positive direction beside it for improving students' learning outcome, which will to increase students' motivation in education, students' competitiveness, effectiveness of the global universities, open societies, and distance education networks for transformation of education. In the frame of the digital revolution, modern education reforms, important changes are made to the transformative education process, which is connected to to realization of the next important component is fast development of information and communication technology, following process of globalization, growing the requirements of the competitive markets. Klaus Schwab, head of the World Economic Forum, 2 years ago said, "We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In this scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before, but we are facing an education crisis and challenges not less than economics. World needs new thinkers today. An ongoing global recession caused by the COVID has brought not only on economic crisis, but the educational crisis too, that has borne new requirements for the educational institutions and distance and dictates to investigate the approaches of integration of teaching, learning, and practice. That is the baseline and the necessity of intellectual and creative thinking for the formation of the world new thinkers. For nearly 77 million children, the pandemic has taken away their classrooms for the past 18 months. The educators have adopted education in emergency through various online platforms and are compelled to adopt systems that are not known to them before. Therefore, it has become essential for students to engage in self-exploratory learning. The level of academic performance of the students decreased because of reduced contact hours for learners and lack of consultation with teachers when facing difficulties in the learning. Under COVID and the influence of the fast development of information technology, the world changes faster. It needs more creative individuals who can think practically and will be involved in the process that is focused on a specific scope with the needed design for finding answers to the problems and the questions, for promoting the creation of innovation and understanding their practical potential, answering on the questions. What are the problems for a better way for becoming a new thinker? How do we make to think creatively? The concept of new thinkers we can consider is the concept of new thinkers sparks numerous scholarly debates as well as practical applications in the crisis situation where the COVID occupied the world. Its bases are core values and freedom such as equality in social relations, on inquiry and transparency in decision-making and knowledge production. The main problems facing education we can consider as are education policy, core education standards changes, learning process, teaching with its forms, technology in education, teaching programs, education environment, testing, practical application, educational threats through managerial making. Aims of the education process for the new thinkers to describe the possibility of student-centered teaching, learning, improvement for the answer to the questions. Are the teacher and student as the main players for student-centered learning in knowledge creation? Is the modern higher education reform towards open societies? Are the student and teacher motivated for open societies requirements? Trends shaping education to future may be considered as no doubt that understanding of the research process integrated with teaching, learning, and practice is essential characteristics of education on the new way of the industrial age. It's clear that students who are possible to access job-related resources will be more competitive for labor market and pressures arise in general. What are the aspects of knowledge creation in the fourth industrial age? Is the modern education towards knowledge creation in the framework the fourth industrial age? Are the teacher and student main players in knowledge creation? How knowledge can be considered as a function of teaching learning practice for preparing students for the job market? And the main trends can be formulated as are critical thinking, strategic thinking, new approach of students and teacher relationships, stimulate reflection about the future of education, determine robust data on trends. Design thinking. How do we make to think creatively? Design thinking tackles complex problems by embodying, defining, and ideating. And statement of this may be art. Nowadays, teaching learning process and shaping of society is in transition to a new structure with a new set of rules provided by global economy and requirements of labor market. Relevant information and communication ability are the keys to economic and social growth because it is not self-evident that the knowledge society will become an inclusive and employing society. But we know that education is vital for the economic and social progress and for guaranteeing equal opportunities in our society. If we will consider teaching, learning, practice, and innovation as an engine for change, we need to undertake much more specific knowledge and promote innovation on a modern scale. One of the important challenges for universities today is their continuing as the main factor of society, providing for the knowledge and educating for everything complex global challenge. The conception on solving the problems in practice. We consider as our primary focus on using the scientific methods to conduct research, data processing, and data analysis to develop research questions. Social science research should lead to a better understanding of current social development, enable policymakers to propose solutions to problems and design policies that can serve the public more effectively. How can policy relevance be increased? Can best practice in other research fields be a source of inspiration in approaches to share knowledge? The purpose is to introduce the students to the next step job requirements that can be used to analyze decision-making in any setting in which individuals have reasonably clear goals and confront reasonably clear constraints. But for this realization is necessary to integrate the analysis of social problems. There often exists much prior information about the unknown parameters. Research design, human capital, is now well established. The components of knowledge at the level of the individual are focused.
Professor, sorry to interrupt you. I would need you to wrap up in a minute or two. Thank you.
Okay. It can be sent to determine what we should do, what we can do, how we will do it, and how well we have done it. For analyzing the situation more descriptively was provided research and worked out the discussion panel for students and teachers under the questions where we are and we are who we want to be. Research was provided by the conception as are follows. The teacher and the student are main players for knowledge creation to develop students' critical thinking and creativity with the main issues of teaching learning practice. ICT is the main tool for sharing information, scholarly debates, practical applications, and focusing well on problem solving with decision making, and developing the tools of integration, knowledge with practice possible by increasing students' role in the production of learning outcomes. We have provided a specific discussion for students, teachers, and principals whose goal is the right possible to use or the potential offered by educational resources with at least two dimensions that are connected with the values and attitudes shared by members of the community, the educational practices used by the community, the full potential of modern technologies. What new thinkers need for? We discussion panel, we are the, and we consider this discussion panel, we are we and where do we want to be? We can consider a main variable with some items in this research. Teaching learning practice as a main aspect of the modern education with knowledge creation in this crisis situation. The 9 items for the questionnaire of the variable there are. And methodology, our methodology was the options for the research variables were considered by the Likert scale. Strongly agree as A, agree A, natural, and disagree and strongly disagree. The sums are formed for the 2 categories, teachers and students. The items as the data gathering tool total 2,500 copies. We are sent by the internet, but we collected 2,390 copies, giving a response of 96%. Between of them, 1,635 copies are from the students, and 755 copies are from the teachers. Reliability analysis from the of the items by program software data is we consider video teaching learning practice as a main aspects of modern education with knowledge creation in this process. Number items they are 9. And conducts alpha reliability analysis is 0.82 for the students and 0.78 for the teachers. This analysis is shows that we can consider as a this main variable, teaching learning practice as a main aspect of the modern education of the knowledge creation in this presentation, and to provide more research in this area for this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor McVan-Bietse. Once again, I would like to, because time is starting to become an issue, I'm not saying it for the next one, but it's a general remark. The next one is Panagiotis Argyri. I'm very glad to introduce Panagiotis Argyri from the Evangeliki Modern High School of Smyrna, but also from the National Kapodistrian University of Athens. She's going to present her paper on conducting research in classrooms as a way of teachers' professional development. Panagiotis, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone. Thank you very much This is a presentation together with my supervisor, Mr. Smirneu, and we will try to express the importance of conducting research in classroom as a way of professional development of teachers. It's really that teachers are the vital driving force of any educational system, and they have a decision influence not only on the learning outcomes of students, but they have the responsibility in supporting young people to develop knowledge, skills, and values, and reach their full potential both as students and as future citizens. The rapid technological development of the modern world, together with the continuous social, demographic, cultural, economic, and environmental changes, have a direct impact on the field of education and expansion into the teaching profession. The demand for continuous professional development is a necessity and a challenge. Teachers participate in various training models, including face-to-face, virtual, mixed, and work-based learning. And here is, according to OECD research, characteristic example of types of professional development activities. Also, there are specific activities that secondary education teachers follow as for development pedagogical skills, ICT, teaching skills, etc. See, here is characteristic example through international research. But research literacy and research participation is also a very important way of professional development. Teachers' professional development serves a more future-oriented goals and seek to help teachers understand themselves and the way they teach. It often involves examining different dimensions of a teacher practice as a base for reflecting review. Research literacy and research participation must play an important role in their primary and continuing professional development programs in primary and secondary education. And when research is treated as a set of knowledge, teachers may know or may not choose to use it in their practice. Some example is teacher involved through research have been shown that contribute to successful improvement in a number of ways through the change of effective practices, participation of professional in testing of new ideas, delivery and monitoring in directions. And also one more important example is that in Finland and Singapore, teachers involved in research and inquiry integrated the world system education and a casual relationship formulated between specific future of training programs and the success of educational system, but which not so improved immediately. Participating, on the other hand, when some teachers become more active in research, it can create tensions between the colleagues and staff of school. Research, as well as the generation of important ideas, can also generate real or apparent criticism of current practice and policies. However, for those who teach, those who have successful in research, there is no doubt that the curriculum and the pedagogical innovation and change that follow were very strong. Perspective of type of research in classroom is according to bibliography, action research, practical research, collaborating research, critical research, self-study, and teacher research. Example of conducting research in school, is that some teachers focus in bibliography reviews, focus on development of knowledge of current research in specific area, probably master degrees, observation by peer friends, analysis and hypothesis from school or college data or student worksheet, informal mass scale specific question for the class or groups, sometimes associated with professional organization development goals. School or university research usually focus on an area and its concern or growth for example, success of arithmetic or student-parent voice committee strategies. Research studies, exploration of practice in specific field of curriculum, and also participation in large-scale national study, and it's usually organized and guided by university training development programs. A characteristic example of European project that support the building a research infrastructure for school teachers is the BRIST project, and this afternoon there is also a workshop. The aim of this project is to develop and share understanding of transnational research, the context of school education supporting teachers by first exchanges with them in many and variant school contexts, and they can create shares, answers, and individualization results, thereby giving back agency to their people who need to make a sense of driving research in their school. Here is an example of my viewpoint that I take the role of researcher in a teacher's placement. It's really that nowadays, as I referred before, the liability changes more than work, creating new demands, not only in educational, but also in workplaces. And this contacted with many challenges of how we educate young people. The starting point for designing this field research is the teacher need for how can prepare students for the transmission from secondary education to work life. In other words, the study of required workplace skills, which are essential to be integrated into learning and teaching within the STEM classroom. Participatory research of teacher placement in industry is an unique way for professional development and an opportunity that link the classroom with workplace. Through the data collected, analyzed from active participation in tasks, services, or activities in the workplaces, and interviews with different sections of the industry, it will be found many similarity and difference in industry and in STEM classroom. The main result is that such teacher placement increased the teacher ability to link theory and practice with proper learning, planning and teaching activities, understanding of workplaces practices. The complete and comprehensive view of occupational tasks needed in industry provide as proposal innovative teaching methodologies and evaluation forms based on the activities and tasks performed in industry and in relation with required skills. Another example of my viewpoint that I have implemented in my school is the case study of connected mathematics with real world that happens during the distance learning. The main research point is to investigate if the mathematical knowledge could be used to help students understand how the COVID disease spread, and also what is the effective use of digital learning environments in class that we used in distance learning for communication and cooperation with students. I developed a research plan with successive cycles. Each cycle is based on a different mathematical concepts. And before drawing up the content plan, the data collection based on discussed orient flipped classroom, the worksheets that students uploaded in a class learning environment, the assessment of this worksheet based on rubric with scales from 10 to 1. I also gave them multiple choice questionnaires that include mathematical knowledge with statistics for any functions. A questionnaire to note the grade of development skills, creativity, problem solving, responsibility, information analysis, critical thinking, and write their comments for learning activities. Also, this case study expanded by the means of applying mathematical and statistical models for intention disease to historical materials. And also the historical perspective could be emphasized both a critical approach to the diachrony and synchrony of pandemics with main research question: how can modeling as analyzed in scientific literacy be used in indirect pandemics, for example, in Plague of Athens, as analyzed in the primary resources. Also, the two papers has been published, and you can find more information for these case studies. I would like to thank you for your attention, and here is the bibliography, the reference of my paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Panagiotta. Very interesting presentation. Also, there are some comments about your presentation on YouTube. And thank you once again. And now we're going to two countries at the main time, the benefits of Zoom meetings. We will meet Laura Cristea from the Children's University Association in Romania and Phil Smith from the Teacher Scientist Network in the UK. They are going to present the FAIR+ open schooling approach, inspirations and initiatives in microeducation ecosystems. Laura and Phil, the floor is yours. Laura, you are muted. I do the same mistake all the time. I'm speaking while I'm muted.
Finally. So good morning, everybody. It's very nice to be today with you and to have the opportunity to present our inspiration and initiatives in microeducation ecosystems as a result of our project FAIR+. My colleague, Phil Smith, is here with us, and I invite him to give you a salute.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great morning in Athens. Sorry we can't be with you. I'm speaking to you from the North Norfolk coast in the UK. It is cold, it is wet, very typical of England. But let's get on and hear about FAIR+. Back to you, Laura.
So, FAIR+ project means partnerships for pathways to higher education and science engagement in regional clusters of open schooling. But FAIR+ was also in the Greek mythology, son of Tecton, who was a shipbuilder, and it's also a name giver of asteroid 2357, a large Jupiter Trojan. It's a youth-funded initiative, and it started in October 2019, and it's going on for 36 months. As you can see, 15 partners from all over Europe, but also from South America, from Colombia. So we have reached, and we have also partners from the other part of the Atlantic Ocean. So the overall aims: new ecosystems in education, local education clusters, more about that later. We want to support school in scopes of innovation. A lot of the partnership work with children universities, and we are seeking to work with partners outside of the schools. Of course, we are bringing a lot of experts, local stakeholders, linking with real life, supporting local framework, and overall, this is a better response to learning crisis and recruitment in STEM. It is based upon 3 ideas: the open schooling as understanding of open school culture, as a model of how schools can better reflect on societal ideas, the children universities, which are a unique approach on the connection between the society and the university system, and also the science capital, which is also a very interesting focus of Louis Sartre in the last 5 to 10 years. So basically, the children universities are encouraging children to be curious and to think critically. And there is also a European network of children universities available on ucu.net. So we are relying upon this children universities experience. The STEM engagement is very relevant for the project, and especially because we are bringing elements of art in STEM engagement, so-called STEAM engagement, to allow the full development of children. Of course, the open schooling idea that we are also working with the European Union definition of the open schooling, and we are trying to involve a lot of local communities, and in the same time, these local communities are the beneficiaries. At the moment, we've got 2 sets of results: inspirations and initiatives. Under inspirations, there are 63 examples of inspiring cases or practices that have been gathered from around the world by our consortium. They are examples which can be used to inform and inspire our own programs, the LECs, the local education clusters, and the TEMPs. We will talk about this later. And of course, anyone else interested. On the fairclass.eu website, you can find inspirations if you are interested in developing open schooling programs. As any ship requires a framework to support it while it's being built, the ship Fairclass, we provided support for our partners by producing the policy briefs. These are related to the benefits of open schooling on STEM learning, school autonomy and stakeholder engagement, school leaders and teachers, non-formal education providers, financial aspects, physical and legal barriers, and of course, lessons learned from the COVID pandemics. Phil, back to you.
That's fine. Thank you, Laura. So we go on. These are some of the initiatives that we have established during the Fairclass project, our so-called local education clusters, or LECs. And you can see them described on the slide here. There are 6 of them. If we start in bottom left, we're in Trieste in Italy. Trieste is the city of knowledge. They work a lot with the research community to overcome gender barriers and issues around social inclusion. We work with a group in Łódź in Poland, very industrial city, and their focus, very interestingly, is on primary schools and the readiness for the job market and the awareness of what those jobs actually might be. In Kuopio, in North Savo, in Finland, there are issues of rural isolation, and they are taking a very IT-focused approach, looking at digital literacy and developing virtual science clubs. Vienna, major capital city of Austria, of course, working with another large network, and I'll describe that in a few moments. In post-conflict area, we have Medellin in Colombia, part of the EU for the purposes of this project. They are experts in co-creation and co-design and trying to develop solutions very relevant to their own local situations. And then you have Porto in Portugal, a trading city full of entrepreneurs and trying to link STEM education or STEAM education with entrepreneurship. So you can see there is a range of geographies, a range of scales, and a range of target audiences that our LECs are trying to learn more about. And overall, the Project Feroclos is seeking to find commonalities and differences and make predictions on what might be good for future models of open schooling education. So a little bit more detail for you from the Italian LEC. Here we have, they've developed activities for teachers and pupils. Again, as I say, focusing on the rich research community that is found in that city. They recently initiated a large citizen science project called Zumari.it, which is looking to understand waste that's carried by the sea around the coast, and everybody contributes to this research by making observations through photographs and recording it. And this is a way of engaging both the community, the wider community, and not just schools. In Wuch, this is looking at the labour market and trying to make young people more aware of that labour market. And who better to do it than students for students? So what you have is the young people actually designing their own conference, supported by members of the Children's University. They set up their own Instagram posts. They conducted interviews with entrepreneurs from industry background. They analysed over 1,000 surveys. There was an online conference and a face-to-face conference. The face-to-face conference focusing particularly on the primary school. They shared this on YouTube. It got over 500 views. They had interviews after the conference as well. And they got an invitation to the Digital Youth Forum, which is a really exciting opportunity for these young people to have a voice. And this is, I think, a really important dimension. In Kuopio, as I say, their rural isolation means that they're focusing on the use of IT. And we've heard already this morning about how powerful these tools can be and some of the benefits of them, particularly if you think, particularly during the COVID crisis, where people were restricted in their movements and unable to, in some cases, even leave their homes. So they've taken an approach of co-creation and then piloting some of their initiatives that they have subsequently shared more widely with the community to develop them further. They've offered virtual science clubs online to hundreds of pupils. They've offered online training to teachers and also the sharing of pedagogical ideas. And they're going to be sharing much more about that, as all our projects will as we go forward. So the LEC from Vienna in Austria is working with the Bildungsratzel, a school network that existed already in Vienna and that are quite large, and combining the strengths of the Bildungsratzel with the Vienna Children's University as a university network and bringing these two communities together. There is a mutual exchange of knowledge right through from primary schools to the third sector. And their real challenge is because the Bildungsratzer involve literally the whole community, everyone living in a particular district in Vienna. How can everyone feel involved? How can everyone feel like they are contributing to this open school? And of course, you can't force people to be involved in these initiatives. It's a free choice as to whether you participate directly. And so each one of the LECs have their own challenges that they need to recognize going forward and come up with solutions. And hopefully we as a community can all benefit from this learning.
Sorry to interrupt, Phil. You're reaching your... Yeah,
okay. Yeah. I think I can do in 2 minutes. The LEC in Medellin in Colombia, they have taken a very co-creational approach, looking at the health, culture, gender equality, youth, social development, mobility, social inclusion, and environment, which are local issues that are pertinent to their own situation, and therefore the young people feel like it is more relevant to their learning. And finally, Lec in Porto, taking the entrepreneurial approach. Do young people have ideas that they wish to develop? Well, of course they do. And so they are being supported in developing those ideas through a collaboration with the Children's University or the Junior University and the business school in Porto. And all these LECs are hoping to sustain their activity beyond the course of Heraclos. So they're looking at sustainability planning, which has already identified a number of differences, but equally some similarities across the different LECs. And we will go on to analyze that in more detail going forward. But of course, it's not just the LECs that we've been working with. We've also been working with TEMPs. And in the final few moments, Laura will talk about those.
So the TEMPs are transnational educational mentoring partnerships. There are 44
sorry, again to interrupt. Please be quick because we're already behind time. Sorry for that.
Thank you. So those 44 institutions can be found on the Heraclos platform, and we have a focus on the 3 institutions from Greece that have been working a lot within these transnational educational mentoring partnerships. For example, one in the TEMP number 3 is working with children aged 10 to 14 to learn about sustainability goals. They discover in a playful way, analyze theoretical and get practical touch with the conflicts coming along with the SDGs, their realization. And there are also 2 institutions within the Heraclos TEMP number 6, and they have worked also a lot. They have trainings for teachers. As we speak, they are preparing to have the mentoring program in Greece, and they are implementing an educational guide as a result of the TEMP, and is proving the overview of innovative methodologies and their appliance in different educational fields. So there is also this initiative, OS Together, with more projects from the Horizon 22 focus on open schooling. You can check them out on our website, heraclos.eu. You can check our community, and please get in touch with us on Facebook and on Twitter.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Phil. Sorry for forcing you in the last moments, but we are really behind time, and there are a lot of papers to be presented in the session. So I would like to move back to Greece to Dr. Evangelia Manoussou from the Hellenic Open University, who is going to present the role of e-mentoring in distance education. Dr. Manoussou, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Yes, hello.
After some problems with the electricity. Okay, let me present, excuse me, just a minute to open my presentation. I can't share my screen, or you can see my presentation. Could you?
Yes, you can share it. It is the button on the bottom of your screen. The green
I know, but okay. Now I can. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Sue. Thank you for the invitation and the acceptance. It's very good to be here, and in order to share and exchange views and input. It was great, all the projects and the research that I heard until now. And it's always important to reflect on education issues among colleagues. The presentation will answer, or at least try to answer, in the following questions. What are Greek schools like today? What are their real needs? how they are addressed, how is the transition to the 21st century school going, and finally, what is and to what will be the role of distance learning in school education. Let's see the first question. In order to answer this, we have to consider, first of all, the fact that the pandemic is still here. So school staff have daily check, self-test, rapid test with constant agony of one or more COVID case appearing. Another factor is the result to the student after 1.5 years of distance learning and with all the issues that arose. Also, new implementation of skill workshops, as they called, began officially as a new subject this year for the first time. And finally, on the threshold of introducing evaluation, something that brings a lot of resistance and frustration to school climate and daily routines. The next question is, what are Greek schools like today? As we can see in the picture, we are in the middle of transition and the path is still being designed since we learn and we learn as we go on. Now let's take a look at another important question. What are schools' real needs? There are a lot of factors contributing to this. First of all, schools have to deal with the new era that is now beginning. They also need real support from the Ministry of Education. New communication skills that include social media are important as well. As technology grows and expands, our range of communication, so does for daily social interaction, and we have to search for and set new boundaries. Also, the professional development for the teacher is extremely crucial. Finally, also, it's very important that new models of leadership leaders be introduced, such as participate leadership, etc. The next question is, how are school needs addressed? I think the real question is, of course, I talk for public schools, if their needs addressed. There is not only one answer. We realize that during the pandemic, schools and teachers have been making a hard effort. Most of them have found a way to communicate with their students, and they are training very hard and very fast to improve their digital skills. Through this hard way, schools and teachers have made a big step to the 21st century. So transition is already here. We are in the middle of the transition, of course, 21st years after the beginning of the new century. How is the transition to the 21st century school going? Along with the pandemic, distance learning invade the school routine, bringing new challenges and intensify all the new needs and concerns. In education, the paths are open and the criteria by which important choice must be made in order to achieve the best result are being formulated. What is and what will be the role of distance learning in school education? Distance learning is one path to the transition of the 21st century. Distance learning helps us to discover the importance of traditional school and leads us rethinking the importance of face-to-face teaching. It's a very fragile path, like walking on thin ice. As we understand, the situation is very new for some of us, since it's not always a choice, but an urgent need. With all these factors in mind, let's dive deeper in the role of distance learning or better yet, of emergency remote teaching, which is the most appropriate term. Distance learning improve, understandably, both digital skills and digital equipment. It's also improve our flexibility, as we have become accustomed to utilizing distance learning as well as traditional learning according to the pandemic measures. We discover new application for pedagogical reasons and purpose. As we discuss with teachers in primary or secondary school, we realize a new dialogue about the new digital tools and how to use them in the classroom with the students or in lesson preparation. Another very important thing is that we think about educational material. For me, it's valuable that through this emergency remote teaching, we have realized the importance of pedagogical material, how difficult and challenging is to create and organize it. All this factor leads us to the importance of e-mentoring. In order to put in practice all these issues so they are effective, we need formal mentoring. Of course, in this presentation, I have chosen not to talk about the theoretical framework of mentoring or research data, as there are many others presentation, or perhaps we'll have this change in the future. So, in mentoring, these are the three most important characteristics in order for mentoring to be effective. First of all, support. E-mentoring offers guidance support to teachers. They will get familiar with innovation or changes. The second characteristic is interaction. Interaction will help directly any kind of support and the new issues that may arise. And the last but not least is sharing. In the framework of e-mentoring, teacher will be sharing ideas, material, experience, situation, among other things, as we do today. Moreover, it's important through e-mentoring to create new official networks for supporting all the new needs. This network must be flexible and dynamic, as we constantly have new members and new input for the whole network. And also stable. Through a mentoring network, will provide long-term training to teachers and help with the transition to the 21st century school. Summarizing, in my opinion, the transition to the 21st century school, we have to go through distance learning and e-mentoring for distance learning and not only. And thank you. I hope I was in time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manouchou, for the interesting presentation, and because the timing is running out, for keeping the time limit. It is very important. Thank you so much. And now we're going to move all the way to Brunei, to Lukman Raimi from the Department of Business in the University of Brunei, Dar es Salaam, who is going to present his paper on teaching social entrepreneurship in the classroom settings in the developed and developing countries using theory of change framework.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. As rightly mentioned, I'll be presenting a conversation framed around teaching social entrepreneurship in the classroom setting in the developed and developing countries using theory of change. Really, the presentation outline is straightforward: introduction, problem statement, research objective, methods and approach, steps in teaching social entrepreneurship using theory of change, TOC, for teaching cases on social entrepreneurship and insight, the implication, limitation, and future research direction. As an entrepreneurship educator, I've realized that teaching social entrepreneurship is very, very important because it's a front burner issue in the world. And there's so many international organizations have attested to that. Social enterprises and social entrepreneurs, they have actually provided solution to social problems decades before sustainable development goals was conceived. This is the statement from World Economic Forum. And if you check even the Google to try to play around with the terms, social entrepreneurship, social entrepreneur, social problem, you are going to get mind-boggling results in millions and in billions. This is to underscore the fact that it's a very serious issue. Then as an entrepreneurship educator, I've realized that universities, business schools, and training centers around the world continue to teach social entrepreneurship the way business or commercial entrepreneurship is taught. They are similar, but the methodology should be different because the focus also differs, the goal differs. So this is a pedagogical approach, which is wrong and has to be corrected. Why? Because social entrepreneurship is supposed to be taught using experiential approach, not theoretical approach or general discussion. So over time, I've taught this course in the polytechnics and also in the universities, and a number of problems have actually manifested. The first one is that students who are taught social entrepreneurship are not social entrepreneurs. So the assumptions that they should have social change vision, they should have passion to change the world, these assumptions are not there. So for us to teach them effectively, there are some things that we have to do, and that has to do with methodology. And that's exactly what this particular presentation is all about. So I want to strengthen, the curriculum, particularly the pedagogy, by answering the question, how best can entrepreneurship be taught to develop the right entrepreneurial mindset in students? So, and I'll be using theory of change to actually achieve this. And this is based on my experience as an entrepreneurship educator in Yaba College of Technology, American University of Nigeria, and currently in the University of Brunei, Darussalam. So the methods that have been used in this particular paper is essentially qualitative. So based on my teaching experience and what the literature has said, I actually fuse all this together to actually provide, justification for what I want to share with the learning community. So the steps for teaching social entrepreneurship are essentially 7. The first one, as an educator, you have to introduce social entrepreneurship module to the students and also the aim. You must explain clearly the aim. Not all students want to be social entrepreneurs. So you must be very, very emphatic on what you are teaching and the aim. The second step is that you explain the learning outcomes at the end of the module, either in a semester or in a month. The learning outcomes should be clearly outlined. Number 3, you should also highlight the module content. What exactly do you want to teach? It must be, explicated to the student and the learners. Number 4, you must define the concepts. Social entrepreneurship has so many concepts that we are going to see later. For instance, social entrepreneurship itself must be defined. Social entrepreneurs must be defined. The outcome of that activity is called social enterprise. It must be defined. And also social problem must be defined. What they set out to correct. Then how they want to correct it, which is social innovation, should also be explained. And finally, social impact. the impact they want to have in the society. Number 5, we must discuss the business model of different social entrepreneurship. For people to be called social entrepreneurs, there are different models from which they could actually choose from. Then number 6, we now use theory of change to enhance teaching of cases on social entrepreneurship. And finally, we highlight the takeaways. So this is a replica of what should be the introduction of the module and the aim. This is what we use in University of Brunei, Darussalam. And it's also similar to what I have used in Yaba College of Technology and American University of Nigeria. This is a replica of what the learning outcome should be. There should be lower order, middle order, and higher order. This will guide the educator as well as also serve as basis for evaluating the performance of the student or learners. This is the highlight of the module content. For this particular one, these are the things we want to cover in the semester. Students will know beforehand what exactly they will likely, come across in the course. Some of them will read beforehand, and so on and so forth. And these are some of the things students need to know. Why social entrepreneurship? Social entrepreneurship. Why not commercial entrepreneurship? Social entrepreneurship is a very important field that brings about change in the society, because there are so many social problems in the world that governments and other stakeholders cannot solve. So by taking up social entrepreneurship, students can actually contribute sustainably to changing the world. So because of time, these are the types of social entrepreneurs. These are pictures of successful social entrepreneurs in the world. Mohamed Yunus, Deshpande, Bill Drayton, Mo Ibrahim, Melinda Gates, etc. So defining social enterprise, this particular one provides very clear explanation of what social enterprise is. It is a non-profit organization that triggers positive behavioral change in the society. They focus on marginalized groups. They focus on solving social problems related to health, education, poverty reduction, climate change, fighting food shortages, recycling, and some other social problems. These are the 3 types. We have not-for-profit, we have for-profit social enterprise, and we have hybrid. This is very, very important, because if you don't explain this to students and they go out there to set up a social enterprise and it fails, it will fail because of wrong choice of the typology. For not-for-profit, these are charity organizations that depends on donation. So they serve the community, they solve the social problem, but they may not survive if the financial source. For-profit social enterprise, the second one is for-profit social enterprise. These are people who solve social problems, charging economic prices. It's not free. So this type, they survive, but they are very, very expensive. And the third one, which we emphasize should be imbibed by students, is the hybrid type, which combines dual goal, economic objective and social change. So how do you identify social problem? You can identify social problem by many years ago.
We cannot hear you very well, Dr. Naimi.
Motivation, inspiration, etc. But in recent times, we teach students to identify development goals. You can pick any social. So this is an example of a business model. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. And I would like to ask you to conclude in 1 minute, if it is possible. Thank you. Dr. Raimi, are you still with us? We have lost your presentation. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah,
yes,
so this is a typical business model. Yeah. This is a business model that summarizes the different types of social entrepreneurs. We call it strategy archetype, and we use the conventional business model canvas. You can solve problem of the society from the value proposition point of view. You can solve problem from customer segment point of view, and there are so many examples provided. Because of time, let's move to theory of change. Theory of change is a tool used by humanitarian organization and NGO to actually monitor and evaluate the functionality of projects, programs, and portfolios. But in recent times, it's been used to teach social entrepreneurship because it allows students to understand the logic of social entrepreneurship right from the objective up to social impact. And these are frameworks. From social problem, social activities, the outputs can actually use to explain the functionality of the theory of change. Look at this, for instance. This is a case of a social enterprise. Car easy way. The social enterprise, the objective, the social problem is set out to solve. The output, social outcome, and the impact. This is another organization, social impact. So when students read this type of cases, easily they will really appreciate what social enterprise is all about and what exactly they want to do as students of social entrepreneurship. In conclusion, the pedagogy. So the implication of this particular presentation is that in the realm of methodology, the paper contributes to what we can call the body of knowledge by developing a robust methodology that provides rich insight for teaching social entrepreneurship from cases. And secondly, from pedagogical point of view, the paper creatively used the theory of change framework to provide answers to raging questions on how best can entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship be taught to develop student entrepreneurial mindset. So finally, from this particular presentation, we have actually learned what is social entrepreneurship, what exactly are social problems, who are the social entrepreneurs, and what exactly are the social problems they want to in that, how do you measure the effect in the society, and that is the social impact. Thank you very much for the wrap.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raimi. We are out of time in any case, and thank you for, despite the connection problems. And I have the honor to present the next presenter, Dr. Agapi Vavouraki from, she is the headmistress in the primary school here in the Ελληνογερμανική Αγωγή. And between all the virtual presentations, we will have one here in the conference room. She's going to talk about the school as a learning organization, challenges during distance education times. Let me also. The floor is yours, Dr. Thank you.
So good afternoon from me. I'm really happy to be here again, back. So we have heard a lot of innovation, of challenges, of crisis, of flexibility, schools in crisis, new curriculums and new ideas. So what I would like to share with you is how we faced these last 2 years of distance education, yes, due to COVID. And I really think it was a challenge because schools were closed very quickly, suddenly. We did have no experience on distance education. Of course, we had no educational material for this. Because schools were closed so suddenly, we didn't have time to think about it, so we had to act. And of course, another important issue is that we had young children, 6 to 12. So how you do that with small young children? What we did and how we did it, I think it was very much influenced by who we are. So I would like to talk about school culture. We do like new ideas in our school, and every year, COVID or no COVID, we try out new things. So we know that problems are there, new things bring disruption, but after the dust comes down, everything is better. So problems are our friends. The second thing is that we do work together, and we believe that innovation is the activity of network teams and not individual. No one has to be alone, and no one must be alone. We also believe that innovation is a process and not an event. We don't want everything at a blink. We don't want everything right away. So how all these things are in the real school life? Teachers in our school participate in different groups. Of course, they do participate according to their positioning. For example, teachers who teach in first grade, they belong to the group of teachers of high grade. But then they participate into other special interest groups according to their interests. For example, teachers who have an interest in Greek language or math participate in these subgroups. And this is an actual physical community. And this is a community that we had before COVID since early, 2010. So inside these communities, teachers try and experiment with ideas, reflect on their practice, handle problems, and the most important thing, they exchange and diffuse ideas. And this is the physical community. And I'm saying physical because teachers meet in regular times and they discuss physically in school. And there is also a digital community. So each physical community has its own space in the school platform. So they have their forum and they have their library, repository, which is very useful because they upload and exchange not only ideas, but also educational material. Well, I think that we are very fortunate and have the luxury of have a lot of support. COVID or no COVID, we are very privileged to have the research and development department in our school, with which we communicate, change ideas, visions, and practices, and of course we have a lot of help. We also have a strong IT department, so we don't have to worry about infrastructure, laptops, technical problems. Well, we do, but at least we have help. So for example, each teacher has its own laptop given by the school. And we do have, we communicate with people in the IT department when we have technical problems. And we also communicate and collaborate with special scientists or academics outside school. So how we faced this challenge? I think that a very good thing was that, and crucial as it showed, was that very quickly we realized that we needed new ways of teaching. We could not transfer what we did in the physical classroom to the digital classroom. So we needed new ways of teaching, new tools, and new educational materials. And everybody, we looked at the same direction. And this empowered our effort. We worked together. And we didn't want them all. So at least at the first moment. So we went with start small, think big. Each step one at a time. So we put our teaching aims in front, we chose our tools, we developed the educational material, we tried, we reflect, and then we went to the second one and so on. So we started from familiar things. We used things that our students were familiar with. So Edmodo, Facebook-like communication tool, e-exercises, a platform that the students used to practice, language, grammar, or maths. And then, after we used these two tools, on a second phase, we introduced synchronous education. The first year we used Blackboard, the second year we used WebEx. We didn't throw anything out, so we combined old and new and synchronous and asynchronous. So everything was supposed to work together. The teacher introduced the teaching unit in synchronous education, communicated with his students through Edmodo, and exchanged homework, comments, which was very useful. And students also practiced through exercises. And we used our textbooks, but we developed tools that students could use to use effectively the students' books. So for example, here you could see a page of the student book, and here you could see basically screenshots from what we did in the digital classroom. So these paper clips were moving, so students could count, or these units could move, so we could formulate tens. We decided to give feedback daily, on a daily basis, and this was proved very important for students. So students uploaded their work, and teachers gave their comments. And the most important thing, I think, that helped us move forward was that we shared.
There's a problem about the people are using. No.
We didn't see anything?
Now it's better.
Okay, okay, thanks. So we shared. Every teacher did developed and expressed, and they shared. So whatever someone did, every teacher used. So this way we multiplied things we used, and of course teachers were not that much overload. And we did have a lot of support for everybody. We did have support for teachers, for parents, for students, and we did have support both on technical things, familiarization with tools, and educational issues. Okay, okay, we think that we did well, but we wanted also to ask our students. So we did ask them twice, once at the end of the first year, and second time when at the end of the second year. So each year we asked around 550 students for third, fourth, fifth, and second grade. So it's 8 to 12-year-olds. Well, they did participate. Yes, we did know, because teachers were following up on students' work. Everybody was there. Everybody was doing his homework. Everybody was connecting with WebEx or Blackboard. And interestingly, they found it quite easy. And what amazed me was that first and second year, the percentages were exactly, well, not exactly, but very, very close, diabolically close. But it's true. So maybe because we did have a lot of help. So teachers, IT teachers were communicating with their students for whatever technical problem they had. And the people in school also helped parents and teachers. I don't have a qualitative data, but I suppose that this happened because we did have a lot of help. Yes, we confirmed that they did want the feedback. They liked the feedback they had from teachers or from the e-exercises, because there was an instant feedback. So when you did your exercise, you had your feedback, and you had also help. So you could go to this page and read again or try again. Well, they did face technical problems. Actually, less than I thought. But even then, we tried to solve. Most of them were on bad connections or microphones. And they said they liked it. they liked that they were at home in a way, because they said, okay, we work less hours because we have 8 teaching hours in a physical, when we are in school, and we had 6 hours when we were in a distance education. They liked that they were not wearing a mask, but of course they didn't like, they also liked whatever had to do with interaction. So they liked when the cameras were on, the messages, the jokes. Okay, expected. I think that it's not surprising. And what they didn't like, there was an 18% that said that there was nothing that they didn't like. And half of them have reported technical problems, and 20% of them actually referred to the general situation that they couldn't meet the friends and their friends and teachers. So it was a challenge, and I think we have a lot to learn, and still. And I think that what helped us go through was mainly that we worked together, and we had an infrastructure that helped us also go through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll try to get all the presentations and have them on links on the program. And Dr. Varoufakis, thank you so much. I know that it has been a challenging period for all teachers and school leaders. And it seems that you have done a great work with working with the students here at Elena Germaniki. And we are going to close the session with the final presentation And for that, we are going to connect with Susana Silva from the Casa do Professor from Portugal, who is going to share the vision on mentoring and induction programs in schools of Portugal, Italy, and Greece. Susana?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, but
okay, perfect.
I need the colleague to leave the screen because I can share my screen. If you don't leave, please.
It's going to leave.
The previous colleague, you are here on the screen and I cannot share.
Okay.
If you are.
You should be able to share the screen now.
Yes, I will try.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Susana, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm starting my presentation, but before that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present our project. It is an honor to be here. So this is an Erasmus project. And as you know, the Education, Youth, Culture and Sport Council advocates that the utmost importance of supporting teachers in the early stage of their professional life. So it is very important for us to know the importance of the induction programs, understood as a set of formal or informal activities, are the ones that most help them to stay in the profession and to reduce abandonment and prolonged absenteeism in the teachers, as you know, is a problem that is being increasing in the most of the countries. Thales also shows that although induction programs are compulsory in all ECDC countries, access does not exist or is very limited. 60% of teachers state that they don't participate in any induction activities when they enter in school. So this is a problem. The induction programs may consist of different activities such as mentoring schedules, meetings, assistance with planning, class evaluation, peer review, and team teachers. Having understood that mentoring activities are the most widely agreed and are considered essential to the practice of teaching and good performance of students. So mentoring is one of the main stages of induction programs, which includes the support of co-teaching of a mentor whose role is structuring in the training process that is intended to be contextualized. So induction practice rarely involve team teaching with experienced teachers, only 45% in the OCC, and are not at all common in Europe. At the OCDC level, only 22 of teachers at the beginning of their careers are design a mentor, being this indicator set as 44 for the Portuguese and only 5% for the Italians. So we think it is urgent to rethink the causes that these low rates, which are known to be associated with the training of mentors, mentoring programs, methodology and strategies for their effective application, and the growing importance of qualified teachers, which is pressing for the massive reform of teachers, as you know, in the baby boom generation. So this project, we have lots of partners. Portugal is the coordinator, but we have also the pleasure to be with National Cappadostrian University of Greece, CETSI in Italy, Ipsipsoa Pietro Piazza in Italy, and First Primariato in Ginásio of Atenas, and also from Portugal, Colégio João Paulo II. As partners in this project, we set global objectives as to increase European citizenship and the development of the teaching profession using shared experience among the participation countries. We also want to promote online community, learning networks, and innovative pedagogical practices among teachers, school leaders, and other stakeholders. Also to influence teachers' training policy in order to strengthen the international and intergenerational cooperation. We want to also contribute to the valorization of the teaching career by offering successive conductions to support feedback and guidance. Also to increase the access and success rate of different mentoring programs. As a specific objectives, we want to know and characterize mentoring program and their implementation partners. We also want to contribute to the training of mentors and teachers, beginnings teachers and in mobility teachers. We want to develop feedback and follow-up process, promoting, of course, learning and continuous improvement of mentoring programs. Although to apply and certify the mentoring programs developed within the project. And of course, to disseminate the results and products at a national and European level. The induction programs and their mentoring activities are regulated and the participation of stakeholders is legislated in the 4 countries of the consortium, but their implementation is indeed very unequal. Its configuration on the ground depends on the following factors. First of all, the characterization of the school contexts, the involvement of management and management staff, teaching and citizenship concepts, underlining pedagogical theories, and available research, and of course, quality control system use. With the main of outline vision on induction programs and particularly mentoring and the specific focus on their regional variation in order to characterize the mentoring programs and their the regional various. Also knowing and portraying the role of mentors, characterizing the implementation strategies, knowing the impact and needs of organization, characterizing the mentoring program and their regional, constructing a mentoring bank, developing a strategy to support mentoring programs, and by building bridges between the different performers. Partners of this, all partners of this project are carrying out research focus and improving the understanding of teachers' education's report, providing consistency and recognition of the intervention to the undertaken downstreams, thus conferring, of course, a high degree and transferability to this product and this impact in teachers' training and schools. So you also want to have participatory research methodologies using the following techniques: questionnaires, interviews, and focus group. We have done a data collection with follow mixed methodology that includes quantitative and qualitative, allowing for differentiated information according, of course, to the target groups. We had all in the quantitative research, we have makes the possibility to generate, of course, numerical data for statistical and comparative interpretation. The number of questionnaires by country will totally 75 users, 15 teachers and in different stages of their careers, 20 schools leaders, and 5 responsibility for teachers training, in a total of 300,000 through the partnership. In the qualitative research, we will use to build an understanding of that, allowing inference to be drawn, new ideas and new developed, and the next stage of intervention to be prepared. The interviewers are school leaders, of course, mentors and teachers training officers, totaling 5 individuals plus a focus group with 5 participants. The research revealed that there are many similarities between the 3 countries, Italy, Portugal, and Greece. The weakness of the mentoring and induction program to newly appointed teachers offered by schools, and that very often these programs arrive late. It was pointed out by the teachers that they were uneasy about starting their careers without the help of a mentor, especially in managing the classes and students' behavior. In these countries, it will be necessary to already have a mentoring program also for temporary teachers. The needs of the teacher seems to be the same in all countries. They all mention lack of time outside the school hours to develop their training. For example, lack of time or lack of motivation, the size of classrooms, because teaching in classrooms without a lot of students makes the work for young teachers, of course, without experience, more demanding, and the cooperation with the headmaster and the colleagues. It is important to stress that the needs of the teachers are strictly related to the needs of their schools, environments, and the needs of the students. It means that a teacher that works in a special education school, he or she needs supports and how to provide a social and emotional learning environment to the students with special needs. Or if a teacher works in a high school, he or she needs a support and how to provide students with the successful methodologies for example, in the new university exams. And again, it depends from the service offered by the school, of course, and the curriculum and motivation and so on. All the partner countries agree on the fact that these programs are fundamental for teachers, not only for teachers in the beginning of their careers, but also for experienced teachers as an example of ongoing training. The teachers' need for training is not limited only to the level of teaching each subjects, of course. The teachers must have the appropriate skills, tools to keep up their development and upcoming changes in education. As a guidance and training, even in case of teachers with many years of experience, are necessary to develop the basic skills and will enable teachers to solve simple problems that they may encounter during the lessons and that are related to malfunctions of electronic device in the classes or classrooms. The school also plays an important role in the success of mentoring programs with its internal producers and specific conditions. A prerequisite for the successful mentoring is the culture of cooperation between teachers and the relationships of trust between those involved. It is also necessary to change the attitude of teachers and to shift from knowledge-centered model to a skill-oriented model in education, which is not exclusively, of course, concerned how to teach the curriculum of fragmented knowledge objectives. This loop toolkit that we are now trying to implement should be supported by an interactive online platform for building and sharing it. It will materialize the collective project with a set of tools to support peer-to-peer cooperation relationship, a toolkit for a transformation in teachers' training process. We have also want to have a resource bank. It is a mechanism to characterize the profile of the participants in order to define their learning paths and essential basics for the identification of the training mentor and the definition of the training program. So I think these are the most important things that we want to share with you. Of course, this is our vision to the mentoring programs that we want to improve. So if you are interested in some information or additional information, you can ask and you can email me, of course. Thank you so much for having me here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation. And I would like to thank all presenters in these sessions for their very lively input. I would like to thank all participants here in the Zoom meeting and also on YouTube. I would like to take responsibility for a malfunction on our YouTube live streaming. For a moment, for a few minutes, participants watching us on YouTube were not able to see all the pages of the presentation. So I would like to apologize for that and assure that we will upload all the presentations as links on the website of the Open Classroom conference. Once again, I would like to thank you all from all around the world for participating in this session. This concludes our paper session of the morning. We will have a break and we will continue with our workshops and our presentations from the schools here in Greece that participated in the Reflection for Change project. And as always, everything will be broadcasted on YouTube. Once again, thank you all for your participation. And it's been a pleasure to be part of this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. See you.
Bye-bye.